to what I'm calling demystifying the innovation investment fee with MISMO. I am Amy Moses. I am the Vice President of Strategic Growth here at MISMO, and I will be co-hosting this event with my colleague, the President of MISMO, who everybody knows and loves, Brian View. He waved a little early. Wave again, Brian.
Yeah, this timing thing was a little off.
All right, thank you guys for joining us today. We are so thrilled. We had over 400 people register for this event. We are honored that you want to spend the next hour with us today. Why are we here? It's one simple word: no. We're here to talk about the innovation investment fee, but it's not new. It's been around since 2019. Nothing has changed about it in regard to how the fee is calculated for lenders, how it's administered, how it's remitted. That's all the same. The only difference is that we're now providing even more value to you for what you pay, because we continually roll out new initiatives and data sets, including the mortgage compliance data set. Why we're here, as I said, is that word no. When I started working with MISMO in March, I was having Zooms, phone calls at events, talking to people, asking them, have you heard of the innovation investment fee? I would get a resounding no 95% of the time. I'd level it up and ask, have you heard of MISMO? Yes, no. Do you know what MISMO does? A little bit, kind of with that scrunched up face people would use. So that's why we're here. We're here to educate you, be very transparent about the innovation investment fee, what it is, and why it's needed. And to give you just a little briefing on MISMO, there are three primary things I learned people don't know about MISMO. Number one is we are the standards body for the real estate finance industry. The standards body. Number two is we are a subsidiary of the Mortgage Bankers Association. And while the Mortgage Bankers Association focuses on advocacy, we here at MISMO are focused on problem solving through standardization. Both are very needed for our industry. Both are very different. The third thing about MISMO is that we are self-sustaining, meaning that the funds we need to operate come from you, the industry. People oftentimes think, oh, MBA gives you the money you need to operate. The money comes from lenders paying the innovation investment fee and everybody else in the industry becoming members of MISMO or sponsors of MISMO. The MISMO, I've been saying this now for a while, which I love. It's by the industry, for the industry. The standards are created by all of you. We at MISMO don't create the standards. You are all creating them for the entire industry. And so that's why we're here today, because MISMO is vital and we want to share with you why. Now, what are we going to cover today? We'll talk more about what the IIF, or innovation investment fee, is. It wouldn't be a mortgage term if there wasn't an acronym, right? We'll hear from MBA and hear Bob Brooksmith's perspective about the IIF and why MISMO is so vital. We'll hear from 6 lender executives who have taken their time to be here with us today and talk about why their organizations support MISMO through the IIF. And then we'll wrap up with Chris McEntee from ICE talking about the mechanics of the IIF. And with that, I'll turn it over to my colleague, Brian.
Thank you, Amy, and thank you all for joining us today. I want to start by grounding us in why this conversation matters. And Amy hit on this in her opening. Every mortgage loan touches dozens of systems, data exchanges, vendors, and regulatory checkpoints. And when those pieces don't line up, when data is defined differently, transmitted inconsistently, or interpreted in isolation, the cost shows up everywhere: in cycle time, compliance risk, operational friction, and ultimately in the experience we deliver to home buyers and homeowners. That's the problem MISMO exists to solve. For more than 26 years, MISMO has served as the mortgage industry's nonprofit standards organization, bringing lenders, servicers, regulators, and technology providers together to create a shared foundation the entire ecosystem can build on. MISMO does not compete with companies. We don't sell software. We don't dictate solutions. We create the common language that allows solutions to work together. And that work, done right, requires sustained investment. Standards don't create themselves. They require collaboration, governance, testing, iteration, and alignment across a very diverse industry. That's where the Innovation Investment Fund, I replaced the word fee with fund, or IIF, comes in. Let me be very clear about what the IIF is and what it is not. The IIF is not a tax. It is not a revenue play, and it is not about paying for access. The Innovation Investment Fee, or fund, is the mechanism through which the industry collectively invests in the standards, infrastructure, and governance that benefit everyone. It's how MISMO funds the work that reduces fragmentation, lowers long-term cost, and enables innovation to scale responsibly. Through the IIF, MISMO powers initiatives across core data standards that keep information consistent from origination through servicing, compliance modernization, including work like the mortgage compliance dataset, digital mortgage enablement so processes don't break down when technology changes, and innovation initiatives, including AI education and standards to help the industry move forward safely and confidently. You don't always see MISMO's work, but you feel it when things work, and you definitely feel it when standards are not there. Participation in the Innovation Investment Fund also activates MISMO membership. That means a seat at the table. It means the ability to influence priorities, contribute to work groups, and help shape the standards your business ultimately relies on. In other words, this isn't just about funding MISMO. It's about owning the future of the mortgage ecosystem together. Every lender, large or small, benefits from a system that's more aligned, more efficient, and more scalable. And every lender has a role to play in sustaining that system. Our goal today isn't to convince you of something abstract. It's to help you see that standards are leverage and that the Innovation Investment Fund is how that leverage gets built. As we move through today's discussion, you'll hear more about the specific work underway, the value being delivered, and how organizations across the industry are stepping up. Our hope is that you leave with clarity, confidence, and a sense of shared responsibility, because the future of this industry isn't built by any one company. It's built together. Before we continue, I want to introduce an important voice in our industry, Bob Broeksmit. Bob is the president and CEO of the Mortgage Bankers Association. Bob couldn't join us live today because he's literally live somewhere else on a stage in San Diego, delivering a keynote right now at the CREF conference. Knowing that, he was kind enough to record a short message for today's audience on the importance of MISMO, industry standards, and collective investment. Let's hear from Bob.
Thank you for the opportunity to spend a few minutes discussing an issue that is foundational to our industry and increasingly important as we look ahead. 26 years ago, the Mortgage Bankers Association recognized a simple but powerful truth. For the mortgage industry to function efficiently and adapt to change, we needed more than policy advocacy. We needed shared standards. That insight led MBA to create MISMO. From the very beginning, MISMO was designed to be the industry's collaborative engine, bringing lenders, servicers, regulators, government agencies, and technology partners together to solve problems through standardization. Today, nearly every residential mortgage touches MISMO standards somewhere along the life cycle. Whether you're originating, underwriting, servicing, or regulating, MISMO is working quietly behind the scenes to reduce frictions, improve accuracy, and lower the costs of doing business. MBA stands firmly behind MISMO. That support is intentional and it's enduring. MBA and MISMO serve distinct but highly complementary roles. MBA focuses on advocacy, representing the industry's interests in Washington and across the states. MISMO focuses on execution, turning policy, regulation, and innovation into practical, scalable solutions through standards. Different missions, different memberships, but together they create something stronger than either could alone. We often refer to this as the power of two. Organizations that engage with both MISMO and MBA are better positioned to navigate change. Advocacy without implementation creates uncertainty. Implementation without advocacy lacks direction. When you have both policy leadership and standardized solutions, you gain clarity, confidence, and momentum. We've seen the impact of this partnership time and again. When new requirements emerge, MISMO responds. When the industry needs alignment, MISMO convenes. Whether it's streamlining state exams in collaboration with state regulators, accelerating e-note adoption, advancing appraisal modernization through UAD 3.6, or building standards that support responsible use of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, MISMO creates alignment where complexity would otherwise slow progress. But none of this happens by accident. Standards don't create themselves. They require collaboration, governance, and sustained investment. That's where the innovation investment fee comes in. The innovation investment fee is how the industry collectively supports MISMO's work as a nonprofit standards organization. It is not a tax. The fee is an industry-designed, proportional investment model that aligns support with participation in the mortgage market. The fee also activates MISMO membership, giving lenders a voice, a seat at the table, and a direct role in shaping the standards that will define the future of the mortgage industry. As our industry becomes more data-driven, more digital, and more interconnected, the need for clear, consistent, and trusted standards will only grow. The decisions we make today about alignment and participation will shape how effectively we can innovate tomorrow. MBA's message is simple. We believe in MISMO. We believe in the value of standards. And we believe that our industry is strongest when leaders step forward to support both advocacy and execution. I encourage you to engage fully in today's discussion. Learn more about the innovation investment fee and consider how your organization can play a role in strengthening the foundation we all depend on. Thank you for your leadership, your partnership, and your commitment to the future of our industry.
26 years ago, the Mortgage Bankers Association saw a need to develop a set of standards for our industry to run on, and that is MISMO, and it's what became MISMO. MISMO is a nonprofit. We're a wholly owned subsidiary of the Mortgage Bankers Association. So we benefit from the scale and the resources of MBA, but we're a completely independent body that serves the entire mortgage ecosystem, not just MBA members. So now we're going to shift from the why MISMO to the who. And so over the last few weeks, we've had a growing number of leaders reach out to us and say 3 simple words: count me in. And that matters because support for MISMO and the Innovation Investment Fund is how the industry shows up for itself and ultimately for the home buyers and homeowners we all serve. I want to acknowledge a few of the companies that recently stepped forward and told us they're in. Companies like Rocket, Lennar Mortgage, Synergy One Lending, Absolute Home Loans, NFM Lending, Achieve Loans, Better Mortgage, DHI Mortgage, Pulte Financial Services, Freedom Mortgage, Fairway Independent Mortgage, CMG Mortgage, Veterans United, Supreme Lending, and PRMG. There was even more this morning. But these organizations recognize that standards aren't overhead, they're leverage, and that investing together is how we reduce fragmentation, lower cost, and enable innovation to scale. And here's the important part. If at any point during this webinar or in the coming days, you're compelled to join in, it's easy. Just send Amy or I, an email, a text, or even a LinkedIn DM with 3 words: count me in. That's it. Now, for the loan officers listening, is your company on that list I just read off? And for the mortgage brokers in the audience, are you working with wholesale lenders who are actively supporting you through their investment in MISMO? These are leadership decisions, and today you'll hear directly from leaders who've made them. So with that, let's hear from a few of these companies. Amy, I'm going to turn it back to you, and I'm going to bring our friend Laura Escobar to the stage.
Thanks, Brian. Yes, we are thrilled to have Laura Escobar, the CEO of Lennar Mortgage, with us today. So thank you for being here, Laura.
I
Laura,
am thrilled to be here.
oh, I love that. Thrilled to be here. All right. So, Laura, from your perspective as immediate past chair of the Mortgage Bankers Association, why does MISMO matter to the mortgage ecosystem?
Before I say anything, Amy, I have to say I'm thrilled that you guys are doing this webinar. Why? I'm embarrassed to say it, but I'm going to put myself out there because you guys know I say it the way it is. I didn't even know what MISMO was. I didn't know it was associated or a subsidiary of MBA. So once I started to become educated a few years ago, it was, now I get it. So as MBA chair, I get to see, or I had the privilege of seeing the industry from a 30,000 foot view. I saw policy, advocacy, regulation, and market forces. But one of the biggest lessons was advocacy alone isn't enough. And that was shocking to me. MBA helps shape the what needs to happen. But guys, MISMO is the one that enables the how it actually gets done. That was a surprise to me. And on the builder lender perspective, the complexities multiply really fast. The builder affiliated lenders like myself sit at the intersection of real estate, construction, financing, and servicing. That complexity makes standardization even more critical. So when standards work, consumers don't see them, but they feel the benefits. What I've learned as chair about scale and stewardship is the larger and more interconnected this industry becomes, the more it depends on shared infrastructure. MISMO is part of that infrastructure, folks. It's quiet, real quiet. It's foundational, but guess what? It is essential. Supporting MISMO isn't about paying a fee for a feature. It's about maintaining a standard that everyone relies on. So I guess in closing, I'll leave you with, from where I sit, MISMO is one of those things that you don't fully appreciate until you realize how much the industry not just needs it, but depends on it. And as chair of MBA, that became really clear to me. So bottom line, because I bottom line it all, MISMO isn't about standards alone. It's a cost reduction engine that makes lending faster. It makes it more accurate, more compliant, and at the end, more affordable for all of us.
Thank you, Laura. Oh my gosh, there are so many things I want to highlight there, but I love that you were transparent in not knowing what MISMO was. And when I talk to a lot of CMBs around the country, the first thing they say is, oh yeah, there was like a question or two about it on our test, right? That's what they know about MISMO. They know they were tested about it one time, but they don't know that it is a cost reduction method, or I forget the exact terminology that you said. And that is what we need to continue educating the industry about. People have said MISMO is the best kept secret, and we don't want it to be a secret. We want you all to know how you can benefit from it and reduce those origination costs that keep escalating.
Like I said at the beginning, count me in.
I love it.
Right. 3 great words from Laura. Count me in. Thank you, Laura.
Thanks, Laura. Amazing. I'm fired up hearing from Laura. I loved her tenure leading MBA and the inspiration from the stage. All right, we're going to bring up one of Steve Majerus, who is the CEO of Synergy Lending. Synergy Lending, believes in the modern mortgage experience. And Steve, thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you, Brian and Amy. And I can confirm a couple of things. One, I never want to follow Laura again. She's fantastic. And it is over 70 degrees here in San Diego. So I'm sure Bob is doing his thing on stage, but probably wants to do it outside.
Sure. Well, Steve, thank you so much for saying those 3 words, count me in. I never had a doubt, by the way. And thanks for agreeing to spending a few minutes with us here this afternoon. So you and I, a week or so ago, got caught up on one of the more recent initiatives being worked on at MISMO, the mortgage compliance data set. And I'd love to just hear from your perspective as an operator, what are some of those benefits that you see coming from the adoption of the MCD, and why did it make supporting MISMO through the IIF a no-brainer for Synergy One.
Yeah, that's certainly as you guys have alluded to, the awareness and the specificity around your mission and the solutions that you guys are bringing to the market are just so critical to illuminate in discussions like this and getting much, much broader. I think one of the things that as an operator, we have to figure out as we're thinking about both the consumer, protecting the consumer, but also delivering a frictionless and transparent process and lowering our costs. We're always thinking about scale. We have to always think about scale. And this is one of those solutions, MCD is one of those solutions that is just screaming for simplicity and practical data sets that are the same for everybody so that we can deliver those in a really, really frictionless way. And frankly, as an operator, I think about this, whether we're delivering loans in the secondary market and trying to standardize a process there, or this particular use case, or workflows in Encompass, as we're Encompass users, standardization develops so many things, starting with muscle memory, improved accuracy, improved productivity, all of those things that as an operator, we're always trying to achieve in every element of the business. And so, again, something like this, to me, I draw from a lot of experience during my .com days, and this leveraging data, which is so important to every company, is long overdue in adopting this, and really does make it a no-brainer for us to lean in, and so I can say I'm already in, along with everybody else. But the other thing is every time our compliance team we're meeting about updates on state exams or otherwise, the biggest frustration point for me as an operator and for my team is this aggregating of data, these tasks that they get stuck in. So there's no analytical option. There's just gutting it out and pushing through, and it just doesn't make sense and on so many levels. And so it is a no-brainer to get those teammates focused on more productive and more analytical tasks versus just transferring data in different ways to different states and different formats, and then having to redo those things multiple times in some cases. And so I'm sure all of us as leaders could go on and on and on about this, but this needs to happen. This needs to get accelerated. And I think, I would encourage all the leaders in the space to lean into this, get educated about it, and support it holistically from start to finish.
Love it. Thank you so much, Stephen. And folks out there, we threw some more acronyms at you. MCD, which is the Mortgage Compliance Data Set. That's a separate webinar, by the way, coming soon. But if you're interested in learning more about the MCD, we just completed a paper in partnership with the Conference of State Bank Supervisors, the CSBS. And so if you DM us, Amy or I, and just say MCD paper or something like that, and give us your email, we will shoot you that paper. There's a lot of detail in there, and it's an eye opener for sure for operators. So Steve, thank you again for joining us today. And why are you wearing a sweater when it's 70 degrees? Come on, man.
Well, when I got up, it wasn't 70, so I'm still stuck. My office is freezing. What can I tell you?
I love it. All right, thanks, Steve.
That's it, guys.
And Brian, I will also add that the paper is now available too on MISMO.org /MCD. MISMO.org/MCD, and you can download it there too.
We are moving fast. All right. Well, Amy, are you ready to bring Eric up?
I am. Let's go.
Here he comes.
All right. We are pleased to be joined by Eric Hart, CEO, Pulte Financial Group. Thank you so much for being here, Eric.
Thank you. Can you guys hear me okay?
Oh, yeah.
We can.
Apologies for the tunnel view here. On the topic of common standards, our firewall didn't like your streaming platform, so it's off the iPad today. Echoing Steve and Laura's comments, we are here at Pulte. We're very happy to help fund innovation, Brian, to use your word. We are the captive mortgage affiliate of Pulte Homes, the third largest home builder in the country. We've been part of them for over 50 years. Our company was acquired and became part of the home builder in 1972. So that's one of those things I think an organization learns over time, is that alignment around standards and investment in those standards to ensure that they continue to be relevant is critical. One thing I'd like to call out is the importance of MISMO in helping to ensure further entry of new sources of capital into the industry. So many of the folks who are on this, listening to this phone, I'm sure are smaller IMBs like us. I think anything south of $50 billion a year makes you small these days when you look at the size of some of the competitors. And access to new sources of capital, new banks, new private capital investors is really going to be critical for solving affordability, for finding out ways to compete. And the ability to interact and engage with a new provider of capital and have a good view on what kinds of data standards they're going to accept to ensure that the information that we use, that they require, is consistent. It makes it easier to onboard new investors. It makes it easier to resolve differences, to learn from each other, and figure out ways to build good partnerships. So, I think I'm excited about in the years to come, whether we're talking about the sort of relaxation of some owners' capital requirements, a regulatory environment that makes it slightly more attractive for either newcomers or maybe providers of capital that used to be in the space but have long since left. As they come back in, it's going to be great. But as anybody who's started working with somebody who's never bought servicing before from an originator would tell you, there is a very long learning period both sides have to go through. And the more we can continue to sort of promulgate and drive adoption of consistent standards, I think the easier it will be and the less friction there'll be for new providers of capital to enter the space, which benefits all of us. It benefits homeowners. It brings down the cost of lending. And so, maybe a different way of looking at the other certainly important benefits that others have mentioned, and I'm sure you're going to hear reiterated today. But we are happy to support MISMO in all of its efforts and continue to see it as a critical partner for our industry.
Amazing. So we have a count me in from Eric. And you heard Eric mention the homeowners. Laura mentioned homeowners as well, right? And that's a bridge that we're trying to close, a gap we're trying to close, because you don't often hear MISMO associated with homeowners, right? People think that's too far to go. We're creating standards for the industry. How does that positively impact the homeowner? But it does in a variety of ways.
And Amy, to that point, I would say, one great example you can look of as a sort of a good forerunner of where I think we'd like mortgage to be at some point in the future is you think about payments. Think about what banks have been able to do through the Zelle network, which is dramatically simplified payments. That wasn't any technological achievement. That was a bunch of institutions getting together and agreeing on a set of standards, a set of rails for how information and money was going to be transferred. And the benefits and the reduction in cost transactions for homeowners, for consumers has been massive. I think that's the kind of future we want to envision for mortgage, is a place where data moves as easily as the funds that accompany it. And I think that'll have benefits for everyone.
Thank you, Eric. That was a great example. And I just want to thank you again for having Matt. So Matt Garlinghouse came to our MISMO Winter Summit. For more education about MISMO, we have 3 summits a year, a winter, spring, and fall. And Matt from Pulte came and spoke at our Winter Summit, and it was a joy to have him there. So we thank you for that as well.
Thanks. Have a great day.
Thanks,
Thank
Eric.
you.
All right, we are moving right along. Now I'm going to bring up Patrick Hartford, one of my hometown guys here in Detroit.
Hey, Brian.
Patrick, how you doing?
Hi, Patrick.
I'm doing good. Doing good.
So Patrick, Patrick's a board member of MISMO and is serving us in that capacity. You've been around MISMO for quite a while.
I think it was early 2000s,
Yeah.
the very beginning of that time. So yeah, it's been been a ride for sure.
I love it. I did a post yesterday during the second quarter of the Super Bowl, right when your commercial played, and as usual, a very inspiring commercial for aspiring homeowners, right, across
Right.
the country. And frankly, to me, I in my post I talked about that commercial being more than just a outreach to consumers. I kind of took it as outreach to our industry, and it was really one of those special moments that kind of lifts the entire industry. And so, I for one want to thank everything that Rocket does to continue to inspire and lift the industry and awareness for aspiring homeowners. So, well, let's pivot over into a why MISMO from Rocket's perspective. You guys, you're in a lot of streams today, right? You've got direct to consumer. You've got your Rocket Pro channel that serves mortgage brokers on a national basis, and you have your real estate business with the recent closure of the acquisition of Redfin, and to really put a bow on things, and I'm probably missing a few other things, by the way, like title and closing and all that stuff.
Yes.
But you guys acquired the servicing business from Mr. Cooper. So you have this kind of holistic consumer experience now under one roof. Why does MISMO matter in the context of all those channels that you guys operate in?
Yeah, we do work in a lot of different channels. There are quite a few MISMO standards and programs that have helped us scale. And I think that's one of the biggest things. I know someone else on the panel here talked about scale in the past, and specifically with Rocket Pro and the broker communities, they're typically not so resource heavy as we are. We have the resources to implement these standards, and as everybody has explained here, build once and use many is a very important practice of scale. Being able to integrate one time is just an opportunity that we have, that we share with products like Rocket Pro, which enables these independent mortgage brokers across the U.S. And so sharing that implementation and sharing that scale with our partners, which brokers is core to our mission. So it's something that we anticipated to scale out. And so with these standards and with these implementations of all these different technologies and data, we want to make sure that meets those brokers' abilities and enhances them. And by partnering with us, they kind of just inherit those. And so when we do work with the standards and work with implementations, we consider that as part of our implementation plan. So it's not just about getting people in the front door. It's our partnerships with investors and brokers and government agencies to make sure that this is all kind of a cohesive practice.
Love it. Again, we appreciate the partnership from Rocket and your participation in helping drive and advance standards. The mortgage compliance data set that we just talked a little bit about, you guys are like right in the middle of that whole thing. And again, appreciate your leadership there.
Like Steve mentioned, I'd like to just add on to that. My team that I own today, I'm in technology, so I lead our architecture for all of Rocket. So I appreciate not having to run things multiple times and getting asked the same question twice. So things like the mortgage, the compliance data set is just that enablement that just it makes it so much easier. So appreciate that. And then last thing, appreciate you, Brian and Amy, for doing something like this. Like I said, I've been around MISMO for a very long time and have not seen anything like this before. So taking this tact on the group and making sure that MISMO is successful is super important to the industry. So thank you to you both for doing this.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Patrick. Thanks for joining us today. We will no longer be the best or worst kept secret in the industry. That is our commitment.
Exactly.
Right.
And I want to build on something that Patrick said real quick, Brian. He said he's in technology and he mentioned, he doesn't want to run things a couple times. That's great because the compliance department will now have this new data set. And so historically, I would say people who know about MISMO, they were CIOs or an engineer or an architect, right? it wasn't the head of compliance, it wasn't the CEO, the COO, or somebody else spread across the organization. And that's one of our goals here, is to engage more people across the board, because the standards are more important to people within the lender community and every other type of organization, right, that engages with MISMO than just within the IT department. It's much broader than that. So I'm glad, Patrick, you kind of alluded to that.
I love that. Such a good segue to bring up somebody else from technology. Mike Hogan. Mike is the CIO of PennyMac, and Mike is the current vice chair of MISMO's board of directors. Mike, thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks for having me, and I agree. Thanks for doing this. I think it's great to get people knowledgeable about all the benefits of MISMO.
So before we get into MISMO, I have to acknowledge something that I saw over the weekend involving PennyMac. I was Saturday afternoon watching the Olympics and kind of multitasking, preparing for the week ahead, and I could have sworn I heard the name PennyMac, and it just didn't register. And then maybe 45 minutes later, I actually peeked up and saw a commercial running during the Olympics, and sure as heck, there was PennyMac. You all on the national stage supporting Team USA and our athletes that are competing right now in the Olympics. Man, that was a cool moment. So of course,
yeah,
I'm a LinkedIn guy. I couldn't let it pass. I took some screenshots and put a post out there. But I just want to thank you, PennyMac, thank you, Mike, and your team and your leadership for not only everything you do in our industry, but for crossing over and supporting our athletes and Team USA. And it looks like a few of those athletes are also PennyMac customers, which is pretty cool.
That's right. Yeah, no, it has been a super exciting thing to support the Olympics, and really even internally just energize the whole company because it's such a great thing to be a part of. So that's been a lot of fun.
And so kind of like I talked about with Rocket's commercial at the Super Bowl, and it's the same thing with PennyMac in the Olympics. The messaging that both Rocket and PennyMac have put out, and others do on a national scale, I believe it truly does lift all boats. I do believe in the rising tide lifts all boats. And I think those messages that, the consumers that are unsure, maybe they didn't think it's a good time or that they would qualify, that could be the trigger for someone to reach out. Maybe they don't reach out to PennyMac or Rocket directly. Maybe they reach out to somebody like Synergy One Lending, or maybe an independent mortgage broker. But the point is, I think the consumer awareness around home ownership, I'm always for it, and I appreciate when I see great companies and great brands doing that. So again, thank you for that. So let's tee up your why MISMO here statement, Mike. So
absolutely,
PennyMac's been a long-time supporter of the mortgage broker community, but also of MISMO. I learned of PennyMac's involvement at my first summit, which was last summer. And I met Eric Litwin from your team, and he was telling me how you all, work with the MISMO model and foundation to really build up your data strategy. So we can talk a little bit about that, but I really want to talk about, how you publicly shared how MISMO is important in that regard, but also, why the work that MISMO does and PennyMac as a top wholesaler, why it matters to the entire lending community.
Sure. Yeah. So thanks. So a lot of the things that people before me said ring so true for us, but I think data is the foundation for everything. So for our scale, the data quality consistency isn't just a nice to have, it's essential. And all of our downstream outcomes depend on whether the data is trusted and well-defined. And honestly, throughout my career, hasn't always been the case in the different places I've worked. But more essentially right now, the future with AI totally depends on having well-defined data fields and information that then you can pump into all of your AI applications to use that information in a much more structured and reliable way. And so PennyMac chose MISMO mainly because we deal with lots of different vendors, lots of different data interchange. And while, submitting data to the GSEs has always been kind of a MISMO-based standard, having something that's industry-based and not just what a certain large vendor requires you to comply with is critical for us. So we want to have a industry-based standard, reduce ambiguity, both internally, externally. Everyone knows what you're doing if you're using the MISMO standard. And what's interesting is internally, we've been kind of MISMO compliant in lots of ways. And as you said, Eric talked about how we're just all in on everything rigid, not really consistently following the MISMO standard. And what was interesting is a lot of groups were kind of resistant about that because it did take some effort to shift. And now they're like saying, hey, I want this stuff now. I think they're seeing the benefits and seeing the simplicity that it's giving us and reducing all this translation that we have. And so as we move data between our different areas of the company, whether it's origination or servicing or capital markets, we would just spend a lot of time debating which is the right source of data and what it meant. And that is just falling by the wayside. So that's been fantastic. But then externally, so as you said, we are a big supporter of the broker community. It's a super critical channel for us. And that interaction of moving data between broker applications or brokers to us is absolutely critical to have standardization. So it gives us faster onboarding, smoother handoffs. And I think Patrick said it before, definitely if you're a smaller participant, you don't have an IT staff of, an army of 1 million people to map data all the time or figure out your interfaces. And having a standard like MISMO just eliminates that kind of Mickey Mouse. You can just focus on the important stuff and not fighting, this integration problem. So anyway, I think supporting MISMO, I'm really glad you're doing this, and I like that we're changing it to fund instead of fee.
It's official. It's official.
I think the standards do evolve. We're super excited about this mortgage compliant data set. That's going to be just great for us. Again, compliance is such a huge issue, and just to not even have people kind of come up with their own crazy ideas is great, because now we can all just focus on this. And it just keeps us more focused on innovation instead of being fragmented. So I think that's kind of the overall message with MISMO. You can just focus on the stuff that's important and matters, and not just beating your head against the wall trying to get data to match and interact. So for us, it's a great practice for us internally, but it's really at the end of the day great for business.
Love it. Well, Mike, I appreciate you sharing that perspective with us again. We appreciate you supporting our athletes at Team USA. We're right in the throes of the Olympics, and thanks for your service on our board. It is helpful. You're helping really shape the future of our industry. So thank you to Team PennyMac.
And I want to thank Mike for our new tagline, which I think is MISMO, helping you avoid the crazy things people throw together.
That's right. I love it. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Mike.
Thank you.
All right. We've kept this guy waiting for a while back there. Amy, I'm going to let you bring up and introduce Jason.
All right. Hello, Jason. Next, we're pleased to have Jason Stafen, CIO of DHI Mortgage and a longtime MISMO senior advisor. So, Jason, we thank you for your service over the years to MISMO.
Wow, long time. I would say it's a few years, but I wouldn't say long time. And for the record, it's Staffen, not Stafen.
Oh, Staffen. Sorry, Staffen.
Now
I've always said it wrong. I've always said it wrong.
Right now.
Staffen. It's like when people say MISMO, and I'm always all, I cringe. MISMO.
It's Italian.
Staffen. Thank you,
Right.
Jason. Well, Jason, as a CIO and as a couple year MISMO senior advisor, how important are MISMO standards to effectively leverage AI and advanced technology across the mortgage tech stack?
Well, I appreciate that intro. And Brian and Amy, I do want to say, I think you guys are doing a great job building up the next generation for the organization. And so you can always count us in when moving forward. And I'm in Austin, by the way, and it's 83 degrees outside. So if we were comparing, temperature, this is abnormal, but we're definitely not going to shy away from trying to take advantage of it.
Sure.
I know Brian and Amy, you both kind of asked me, like, imagine if you're a new technologist and you're stepping into the lending ecosystem. Your first time, maybe it's not your first time, but why MISMO? I have a long answer, and I can go into certifications and membership levels, participation, all that stuff. But my practical, quick answer is the MISMO resource library and having access to it. It should be your go-to bookmark when it comes to your tool belt, when you have to do a deep dive in a particular area where, for a lot of folks, the loan life cycle, the definitions, implementation guides, like Mike and Patrick said earlier, the data reference models. I'm a technologist, so API, XML, and integrations, that's meaningful. Even if you have one, you'll find a baseline in that resource area. I would also say maybe the biggest benefits is the context in the areas of interest, particularly through the communities of practice, what we call the COP. So sometimes people say, my company already has those similar materials, but I say 9 times out of 10, you're going to find a subject or an area that may be incomplete. And I bet you'll find the MISMO resource library will have it. So if you're a software provider in the lending space, if it's your first time in the mortgage industry and you're learning acronyms and the lending language, or if you're a 10-year mortgage professional and switching to another lender or company that services mortgage providers, use the mortgage resource library, or the MISMO resource library. It'll take you a long way. So I guess that was probably my best kind of pitch for you guys. And definitely, again, I can't say enough good things about you guys. You guys are doing a great job.
Thanks, Jason. And that harkens back to what I said at the top of the hour, which was MISMO's by the industry for the industry. That MISMO resource library, almost everything out there is available for free for everyone in the industry, right? So you can go out there, download the resources, the data sets that you need, and use them. Of course, we want everybody to become members, but they are created for the industry. So check that out as Jason recommends. Thank you so much, Jason. And we appreciate DHI being in for paying the IIF, now the Innovation Investment Fund.
Thank you, Jason.
Thank you, guys.
All right. We are moving right along. And somehow we managed to recover from that opening video snafu. So thank you again to all the leaders that we just heard from. It's important to note that these weren't scripted. Yeah, we kind of teed them up with some questions, but these were leaders that were speaking from their heart. They support MISMO because they see the value that standards create in the real world. I've said this before, but we're lowering friction, reduce risk, and innovation. We actually help you scale. Now, there's an important truth that we need to acknowledge. Leadership commitment only works when it's paired with clear, simple execution. So believing in the mission is one thing. Making it easy for organizations to act on that belief is another, and that's exactly where we're headed next. This next segment is intentionally practical. We're going to walk through the mechanics of the innovation investment fee/fund, how the invoicing works, what the billing process looks like, how payment is handled. No mystery, no guesswork, just clarity. So to help guide that conversation, let's welcome back Amy. She hasn't even left. And we're going to introduce Chris McEntee, Vice President at ICE Mortgage Technology and the leader of MERS. Chris brings a deep operational background. 1 second here, let me get my notes here. A deep operational perspective and has been closely involved in ensuring The IIF process is straightforward, transparent, and aligned with how lenders actually operate day to day. The goal of this segment is very simple. When a leadership team says, count me in, the path forward should be easy, predictable, and well understood. So with that, let's shift into the nuts and bolts. Amy, Chris, thank you both for being here, and I'm going to turn it over to you guys to walk us through the process.
Thank you. And just want to welcome Chris. I know Chris has been engaged with MISMO for quite a while, and he personally believes in the mission of MISMO, and ICE is a huge supporter. We've talked to a lot of lenders who are supporters of MISMO saying, count me in, but ICE is a member at the highest level as a non-lender. They are a supporter of our summits. And besides just giving financially, they also invest their manpower in MISMO. They're involved in almost all of our 34 work groups, helping to build those standards. And those type of contributions are integral to the success of MISMO. So just wanted to give you and ICE a shout out, Chris. So thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thank you, Amy, and really appreciate the opportunity, Brian, under your new leadership, an opportunity to revitalize this exercise, because we go back almost 7 years ago. There was a vision to try and find a funding mechanism that would allow for investment into the standards body and really kind of augment and accelerate the ability to be able to create standards, get them into market. For people like us, technologists who want to use them to serve our customers, is really beneficial. It's a great clearinghouse, if you would, where a lot of information is shared. So when we first talked about this a number of years ago, as individual responsible for MERS, I raised my hand and said, look, we would be, kind of an agent, if you would. So MERS going out, we obviously have connections with nearly everyone in the industry, more than 5,500 members at the time, and really just use the rails that exist there. So from a practical standpoint, counting me in is we're the counters now, right? Amy and I are going to go out and a lot of this is the ability to be able to make it simple. So you get invoiced, and the invoice comes from MERS. To make it very clear, the invoice for the funding request does come from MERS, but it goes entirely 100%, no questions asked, no fees, goes directly back to MISMO to affect the standards, right? And to help with the events, the great events that they put forward. Again, MISMO is a great opportunity for you bringing in new employees, sending them to the conferences, be able to learn more about what the industry standards like, why it's helping me, what the benefits are. But from a practical standpoint, Amy and I have been working behind the scenes for a number of years now, where we go through, we look at the invoices, we make calculations, we ship those out. We have a number of communication methods by which we update folks, both email and kind of print and snail mail. But more importantly, the main issue is that when you receive an invoice, to make sure you support it, understand what the purpose is. That's the reason we have this meeting today. And then also what happens sometimes is there's some degree of confusion. Well, I didn't see this. Did we pay this already? Like any person who's receiving on an invoice, if it doesn't comport to what they're accustomed to, a lot of questions. It'll get escalated up through an organization, and then the organization's like, well, we paid this bill. So they'll pick up the phone, they'll call us at MERS, and we'll say, no, you need to call MISMO. So again, the benefit of this with revitalizing the fund is to make sure things get routed properly. The executive leaders, people budgeting and people who are responsible for funding these initiatives are aware of the value proposition. And then to the extent that we get any feedback, we want to make sure here's the value proposition, right? Which we heard great comments from a broad scope of industry leaders who say, count me in. And I would say for us, both ICE as well as MERS specifically, count us in as supporters of this message. And Amy, you and I go back a long ways. Is there anything specifically people should think about when they do receive the message going out this week for the request of funding?
Yeah, that's a great question, Chris. So a couple of specifics. The invoices will go out this Wednesday, so February 11th. And as you indicated, right, they are going out from the MERS processes and system to the MERS billing agent. So the MERS billing agent is the person who will receive that invoice or the MERS billing contact. But as you mentioned, they will pay MISMO, right? So they're not paying MERS, they're paying MISMO. On the invoice, it will say, here's how you can pay by check, by ACH, by credit card, and directly submit those funds to MISMO. So that's a key differentiator there. And then is all of the executive sponsors and operational contacts in the MERS system, they will receive a notice as well saying, hey, your MERS billing contact received this invoice. Ask them about it, right? So we encourage people to reach out, ask your accounting departments about the invoice. If for some reason you didn't get it, you don't see it as an executive, again, reach out to Brian or I as well, and we can get you that invoice.
Yeah, and I think about participation, right? You got to be in it to win it. There's value proposition for funding, and Brian and Amy, certainly a lot of the messages are outbound about how they can benefit from this, but it is really genuinely an industry resource that we are very happy to support and see continue to thrive, and hopefully in a tough environment, the ability to be able to put standards in that lower the cost, create interoperability, open you to new investors, capital formation, all positive.
And one thing we didn't mention, Chris, was how the invoices are calculated. So 75 cents a loan times how many loans you registered on the MERS system in calendar year 2025. So everybody's invoice is a different amount depending on how many loans you registered on the MERS system. And then paying your innovation investment fund, as Brian alluded to at the beginning of this session, earns you MISMO, I almost said MERS, earns you MISMO membership. And there are different levels of membership that you can earn based on the amount you're paying. So that's how, when you see that number, whether it's the 2,500, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, whatever that number is, it's the number of loans you registered times 75 cents.
Yeah, and just to put a fork in that one a little bit, that calculation was something that went back a number of years, and we try to go through different mechanisms. Clearly, there's not an exact science to all the loans that are produced in the industry don't flow through MERS, but think of it as an indicative indicator of use cases. Then also the request to try and have a minimum level, right? So some people might not have a dollar value that exceeds some of the requests that are going out there, particularly to be able to think about, do I get at a level that I want to be able to send people to conferences? I want to be able to get materials. And so definitely read that. And there's resources. This webinar or live production answers a lot of the questions. And then the last thing I would say is just for people who are new to the industry, carry the message forward. A lot of people are not familiar. They don't understand the importance of it. I always reference, Steve Smith, who used to be a board member, would talk about Bluetooth, right? There's one. I always talk about, though it's commercial, kind of the Intel inside, MISMO inside, it's kind of behind the scenes, and it's going to create less friction, again, for data to flow between multiple systems and to continue to grow the industry and attract investors. So Amy, Brian, I'll turn it back to you guys. Thank you for supporting this, and I'll carry the message. So count me in, though.
I love it. Thank you, Chris, and thanks to your team at MERS for all the support that they have been providing and will continue to provide up through Wednesday when those invoices go out. And one thing Chris did mention was that there is a minimum suggested investment of $1,000. So if your organization did not originate very many loans last year, we ask that you invest $1,000 in MISMO. And another point you mentioned is not everybody registers their loans on MERS, or not all of their loans on MERS. So we have several lenders out there who have said, count me in, and then they voluntarily give us their origination amounts from last year, and we provide them an invoice. So those are key contributions as well. So don't think if you're not receiving an invoice that we can't count you in. So reach out to Brian or I as well if you would like more information on how you can contribute if you don't get that invoice on Wednesday.
Thanks, Chris. All right, we are home stretching it here, and I want to start this last session by just with a sincere thank you. Thank you to Amy Moses for guiding us through today's conversation and keeping us grounded in purpose and practicality. Thank you, Amy. Yeah. Thank you to all of the executive leaders who shared their perspectives and leadership earlier. Your voices matter and your actions matter even more. We really appreciate you all taking the time today. Thank you to Chris McEntee for walking us through the mechanics and helping demystify the invoicing, billing, and payment process. And lastly, thank you to everyone who took the time to join us today live, but the hundreds of you that will watch this over the course of the next several days. This conversation reinforces a simple but powerful truth. The Innovation Investment Fund is how the industry turns alignment into action. It's how MISMO is able to do the work that often goes unseen, but is felt everywhere, reducing fragmentation, modernizing compliance, enabling digital mortgage workflows, and creating the shared foundation that allows innovation to scale responsibly. MISMO's work only happens because the industry shows up together, and the IIF is the mechanism that makes that possible. I also want to be very clear about something. If you have questions, I mean any questions, we want to hear them. There's no question we will not take, whether it's about MISMO's work, the IIF, membership standards, or just an idea on a new standard, or anything that is connected to your business. Our team is here to engage, and this is not a one-way conversation. So if today sparked interest, curiosity, or even healthy skepticism, there'll be a few of you out there, I'm sure. That's a good thing. Reach out to us, let's talk. And finally, I'll leave you with an invitation. Engaging with MISMO isn't just about supporting an organization, it's about supporting industry alignment. It's about ensuring the mortgage ecosystem works better for lenders, servicers, regulators, technology partners, mortgage brokers, and ultimately, and most importantly, for the home buyers and homeowners we all get to serve. If you found value in today's discussion, I encourage you to share this webinar with your colleagues and coworkers. Pass it along to leadership at your company. Pass it along to your partners if you're a correspondent lender or a wholesale lender. Share it within your professional and social networks. Awareness leads to adoption. Adoption leads to alignment. And alignment is how we build a stronger, more efficient mortgage industry together. Thank you again for your time, your engagement, and your leadership. We look forward to continuing the conversation with you. Thank you, Amy.
Thank you. And can we give one shout out, Brian?
Please.
We have our first IIF payer of 2026. So we just want to say thank you so much to Achieve. Not only did they say count me in, but they've already submitted their funds before they received their invoice. So
Amazing.
They were very proactive. So thank you so much, Achieve, for getting the ball rolling.
Awesome. Thank you, Achieve. And again, thanks everyone for joining today. See y'all.
Bye.